The regular meeting of the Charter Commission's Amendment Review Committee will now begin.
Good afternoon and welcome to this virtual meeting of the Charter Commission's Amendment Review Committee. This meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021, due to the declared local health pandemic. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and open and subject to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. My name is Peter Ginder and I'm the chair of the Charter Commission's Amendment Review Committee. And I will now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Commissioner Cohen,
Here.
Commissioner Kozak,
Here.
Commissioner Mecci, Commissioner Rubenstein,
Here.
Commission Chair Clegg,
Here.
and Chair Ginder.
Present.
There are 5 members present.
Let the record reflect we have a quorum, and we will now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Commissioners, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Rubenstein.
Second, Kozak.
Okay. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Commissioner Kozak,
Aye.
Commissioner Mecci, Commissioner Rubenstein,
Aye.
Commission Chair Clegg,
Aye.
and Chair Ginder.
Aye.
There are 5 ayes.
That motion passes and the agenda is adopted. The next item on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes. There is one set of minutes to accept from our meeting of March 4th, 2021. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved. Rubenstein.
Second, Kozak.
With the motion before us, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on this motion.
Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Commissioner Kozak,
Aye.
Commissioner Mecci, Commissioner Rubenstein,
Aye.
Commission Chair Clegg,
Aye.
and Chair Ginder.
Aye.
There are 5 ayes.
That motion is adopted. Next item on the agenda is the chair's report, and I don't have anything to add on the chair's report other than the matters that will follow in the discussion. The next item on the agenda is item 4, which is considering a potential amendment to eliminate the park board, which was submitted by Jeremy Bergerson. And you'll notice on the agenda that came out that there is a link to or an attachment of that proposal to amend the park board. With that, is there any discussion on this matter at this time?
Clegg, I have a comment.
Chair Clegg, please go ahead.
As you know, we last looked at the possibility of eliminating the park board, I believe in 2009. And that is literally an eye blink in time, in charter time. So we've considered this matter very recently and concluded at that time not to put it on the ballot after extensive testimony was received from the public. Absent a significant change or overwhelming community demand for something like this, I think it's premature to consider this without additional community input and until we have more of an idea about what the community wants rather than one or two proposers. So I would not support recommending public hearings on this matter.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Kozak, please go ahead.
what options do we have right now? that we
Well, our options are we could move forward with some kind of exploration of this idea, which could include holding a public hearing. It could include directing the committee to do further evaluation of this. We could table it indefinitely. We could table it to a later time, for example, as we did when we had the amendment for the the proposed amendment for the Board of Investment and Taxation, and we tabled that matter until after the election in the beginning of next year because of all of the other items that we had on our plate. So there are a number of options available to us.
Mr. Chairman, I think maybe the last one you mentioned might be the one to try, because I agree that we have too many items going to be on the agenda or on the ballot, it appears, this coming November. And this is obviously a hugely important issue to be taken seriously. So I would move to table it, and maybe not. I'm trying to think of indefinitely or until next year, but I would move to table it. And if some commissioners want to take it from the table, they're free to make that motion anytime. So I think that's what I'll leave it at. I'll just move to table this item.
I'll second it.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Thank you. I agree in part with Chair Clegg that we did look at this, I think in 2009, according to the memo we received from Commissioner Cowgill. But at the time, as I recall, and I wanted to clarify this, we did have extensive hearings on the proposal to eliminate the park board. But at the same time, there were two other two other proposals, one for a city manager and one to eliminate the Board of Estimate and Taxation. And the people who came to the hearing to address the park board issue seemed to be under the impression that the proposal was to eliminate the parks. So we never really had looked very closely at some of the issues raised by Mr. Bergerson. On the other hand, I agree with Chair Clegg that one person standing alone to suggest such a big change is premature. We would like to know more about what the community thinks. In addition, I would think that Mr. Bergerson should have a chance to respond to the memo that we received, I think yesterday, from the Park Board. And also, I agree with Commissioner Kozak that we've already got way too much on the ballot now in terms of the charter, and would much prefer waiting until after the election before we start looking at new charter amendments. I had one other thought, and then I'll shut up, and that is that from time to time we get proposals like this from individuals, and now we have two of them. And we don't really know what the lay of the land is outside the individuals. And I wondered if we need to think about or consider putting together some sort of policy as to how we might proceed when we receive a request like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it any other discussion? I'm not seeing any, so I'm just going to talk briefly. I too agree in large part with Chair Clegg. 2009 is relatively recent. And I will note that, at least in my memory, the BET proposed amendment garnered the majority of the attention, and that was viewed by a number of people, I think, as a stalking horse to get rid of the park board because of the lack then of direct input by the park board on some of the Board of Investment and Taxation policy decisions. It's an interesting idea. This is, as Ms. Commissioner Rubenstein indicated, is brought to us by a solo signator. And again, that indicates to me that at least in some accord with Chair Clegg that there's not at least a groundswell of support for this at this moment. So that's kind of my comments. At some point there's an idea in there, but I don't know that it's anything that I would recommend spending time on at this point. So in the absence of further discussion, I believe the clerk can call the roll on the motion, which is to table this matter to at least the beginning of the new year, and we can, I think, at that point again, address whether we'll look at it or continue to postpone the matter.
Commissioner Cohen.
Aye. Before we continue, just a small point of order. Isn't a motion to table non-debatable?
Mr. Chair, a motion to table is non-debatable. We've already had the debate.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt it, but I just wanted to make sure that that point was made.
Commissioner
Well,
Kozak.
other than proof.
Oops, I apologize.
Kozak votes aye, and I think that was more of a clarification than a debate.
You
Commissioner-
need a constitutional lawyer to sort that one out. I don't agree.
I have no law degree, Commissioner.
Commissioner Mecci. Commissioner Rubenstein.
Aye.
Commission Chair Clegg.
Aye.
And Chair Ginder.
Aye.
There are 5 ayes.
Okay, next item, or that matter passes, so that it is tabled. The next item is item 5, which is considering a potential amendment to allow for recall of the election of public officials. And I would just note as we move forward, this is again something that comes in front of us from, it appears to be just a single person. With that, is there any discussion on this matter?
This is Clegg. I have a question.
Chair Clegg.
If we permitted recall, would we have the discretion as a charter city to require any percentage of signatures that we wanted to? Or is there a designated statutory level of signatures that would be required to initiate a recall election?
Chair Clegg, my understanding of this, and I know we have the city attorney is listening into this, but my understanding of this, that we would be free to set the parameters of what would constitute a recall, how the process would work. So I've seen a few of the recall ordinances or charter amendments or charter sections, as well as the ordinances implementing that in several cities, and they're quite varied. So St. Paul has a quite different process than other cities that have recall. So I think we would be free to set the process as well as the number of signatories that would be required to get it on the ballot, the number of signatories that would be required to actually implement the recall. Yeah,
Thank you.
but I'll stand for any corrections from Ms. Bashun if she has anything to add to that.
The recall is under the same statute 410.20 as we are using to review the initiative, the voter initiative for the Public Safety Department. I've done some research on that. There is no specific provision in that statute that says what the percentage should be. As a matter of fact, you know, that's one thing I looked at when I was helping draft the language. What should the percentage be for the initiative. It's the same statute. You know, if we wanted to go forward, definitely I could look, could look into that more, but it seems like we have a little bit of leeway, like Commissioner Ginder said.
Thank you. I appreciate the response. That being said, while this has been proposed by one voter, I think it is also too early and too not ill-considered, but unconsidered to put on the ballot this year. So I would like to, I won't make a motion to table because that won't be debatable, but I'll suggest that that's what we ought to consider, but I welcome hearing from everyone else.
Are there other members of the committee that have comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Kozak.
I apologize if I have for not having read the amendment, but first of all, I would ask the city attorney, Carol, if in fact, what constraints do we have from state law? I remember, I was actually remember the debate from about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago when the legislature passed a law dealing with recounts or recall. Are there constraints on what we're allowed to do for grounds and so on?
I would have to look into that question probably, and look at the law, see if there's any specific law on what we can and cannot do based on that statute and other recall legislation. So I guess I would have to look at that.
Okay, well, I don't think it's probably, that can wait. And I guess the only discussion, I know we had a discussion when we talked about the amendment that we are going to, I think, put on the ballot on the structure of city government. And I think that was there was a discussion about it. But I think I agree with Commissioner Clegg that we ought not to do this. I won't make the motion yet because I know other people may want to have something to say. But I think
you can't make the motion. Rule 7.1 of the Charter Commission provides that motions to table are debatable.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll make the motion.
I apologize. I
Overrule
didn't realize.
Robert's Rules of Order.
I will make the motion to table this item, and then if people want to, at least until after the election, the 2021 election. And if someone wants to bring it back up next year, they're certainly free to do it, and we can have a longer discussion.
Second, Rubenstein.
Any further discussion? I don't see any. I'm just going to weigh in briefly. I would just note that there was no proposed language offered on this. It was simply a statement that came in. Can't remember if it was 311 that somebody would like to see recall put into the charter. I would just note that personally, I'm opposed to recall. I think it's a bad idea. It's right up there with initiative and referendum. But so anyway, I would certainly support the motion to table this. I don't see any other discussion, therefore I'd ask the clerk to call the roll on this motion to table indefinitely.
Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Commissioner Kozak,
Aye.
Commissioner Mecci, Commissioner Rubenstein,
Aye.
Commission Chair Clegg,
Aye.
and Chair Ginder.
Aye.
There are 5 ayes.
That matter passes, and that is postponed. With that, we have conducted all the business that is to come before this Amendment Review Committee, and without objection, we will stand adjourned, and everyone please stay cool. thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everybody.